Good morning, this is Pixie doing another video. Yes, I had an interesting dream last night. I was thinking to myself, I don't really have much alien contact recently. What I tend to do is, when I close my eyes, I can still visually see the room through my pineal gland, sort of around there, or third eye. It's probably actually not the pineal gland, it just has a connection to it. It's probably like a chakra point that's external. I mean, there's ones that float around you as well, and there's also ones in your joints. Most people only concentrate on the 7 down the spine, or there's also 12 as well, something like that. There's some ones that come off the meridians. They're kind of like minor chakra points. And so I'd see the room, and then sometimes I'd see things moving in the shadows. So it could be my eyes adjusting, because even though I've got my eyelids closed, they're still picking up information. But it doesn't feel that way. And then sometimes I make out faces, so things are looking at me and stuff. I become more sort of psychic when you start to shut down your senses and you just attune to your natural state of sensory feeling your environment. You know, it's like you're on standby, some of your body, but you're in sort of hibernation mode, so you're waiting for anything to happen to stimulate you, and that's when you tend to pick up more stuff going on, because you're not concentrating on anything specific. You're basically just sensing everything around you, and makes you more aware of stuff like that. Deeper consciousness in that sense. So sometimes I see faces in there. The other night I saw this like spider quickly gazed at me, this spider face. So it's like a spideroid or arachnoid entity. So yeah, that would be quite frightening for some people. I just sort of made out the shape of it there, and it wasn't threatening. You can kind of sense an emotion, and you need to tune in with your heart. You know, there's been other cases where something's come in, an intruder, and you just wake up and you just feel a bit uncomfortable. And I think often people say that the presence of a reptilian type thing. But it's not always, and there's so much stuff out there. It's just a massive spectrum of things. I mean, from pictures I've taken, I've taken a picture and sort of filtered it out, and it made out the shape of something that looks like it's a reptilian, because its head shape's a bit strange. I've also had experiences where I've seen something stalking me a bit. Well, it's just monitoring me. They're watchers. They're in that realm of watching people and observing them and learning about them. So they're peering into this matrix and trying to make sense of our reality to make sense of their reality. I don't know. But if they only know one way, it would be very interesting. It's like playing a computer game and exploring the environment and never seeing 3D before. It's something different for them. But yes, the foot on this thing was, when I saw this type of shadow being, I thought was like either reptilian or it was a dogman type form. And if you focus your mind on things, you can summon all sorts of things. You just communicate, kind of reach out to them. And then what you do is, once you kind of open the door, then you become the observer. Let it interact with you, what you've created. Because some things, we are our own little universes. We're like say a microcosm. But we're not really, because we don't know the full depth of what we are. So, you know, our consciousness could be the size of a galaxy. It's not really limited, because it spans across and interweaves with other realities. So what you see in your dream world and what you manifest with your mind, you shouldn't treat it as if it has no causality or something, or it has no substance. It's just in a kind of holographic dominion or data. You know, this is like Tron. You've entered into this world that you control, that you can be God in, but everything in there can have its own free will. And so externally, when you pick it up with your senses, sometimes you just go outside of the spectrum. It's we pick up the electrode, but we don't really have much of the magnetic. We kind of feel magnetic energy around us. We sense it on our hairs and our body, because our body runs with it, so it kind of doesn't. You can sense like ley lines and things differently. You get a feeling of more energy around something. So, dealing with what I've seen, it's had, like I say, it's reversed feet, like a dog hind legs, but it's able to walk standing up on them. They're very, very quick. There has a mixed reaction. I don't think all of them like humans, but the ones I encounter are not too bad. There's a way you can bridge that gap, and that's to send kind of like love and emotional stuff like that. It could be because I've never felt it before. You know, if you're an entity, you might be quite lonely, and then you have a feeling like something cares about you. You'd be like, whoa, this being's really nice. In the same way that a dog might be apprehensive when it first meets its owner, but once you've rewarded it in some way, it feels better about it. And, you know, maybe anger and sadness is the highest sort of frequency energy it's come across so far. There's a lot of trauma in the world. I don't know how far that stretches out. I mean, that could go out into the universe itself. Maybe like a beacon. So things like, oh, what's going on over there? There's a lot of stress, a lot of negative energy. But then there's also other things like love and other emotions, happiness, connectivity. It's that kind of connectivity energy. So, I mean, what I've seen is a lot of these beings are shorter as well. They're about 5 foot. And so it's hunched down a little bit with its feet. I mean, there are some beings that are taller as well, like the tall greys and stuff like that. Beings like that are quite. They've got long necks and very thin heads. And there are other things I've seen in the dark. You just focused on them and they've turned up. I think some of them are over on the moon, to be honest. As odd as that sounds, there's things up there. I'll put it that way. We haven't gone up there and build lots of bases because there's something already up there, and it's one of these above top secrets, like you've just been warned off. And a certain agreement, like we'll advance your culture based upon your technological advances. So if you're inventing a computer, we share our technology with you around computers. Or if you're in genetic engineering, we do the same sort of thing. So it's a bit of a like for like trade. Yeah, it's just busy. So, and I've seen it on multiple occasions. I've mentioned I once saw this thing at work that was quite strange. I'd left the office. I was working a different job at the time, and the office was locked and no one can go in there. And I was outside in my car. I had my motorbike actually parked at the time, and I looked up and I saw a shadowy figure looking out the window. It's like, how did he go? So it's checking up on me. It's very weird. So yeah, so that showed me that it was an intelligent being. It's not some random creature, and it was monitoring me. So, and that's probably it on reptilians of what I've actually seen. I mean, I've had things where I first took some ormas, and I felt this kind of, I had this kundalini type, whatever it was. So basically, my DNA came online, and it had information to do with sort of like past life regression, and I had this thing where there was something in front of me that was the bait or the distraction, and then there was something reptilian went behind me, and it vibrated like a crocodile, and like that. But it did that into like a mobile phone. Maybe it's laid on a mobile phone. No, but it was actually like that kind of thing. But I could feel the vibrations on my back, and I sort of eventually stirred and come round. I thought, that's weird, because I could actually feel it in my sleep, but there's nothing there though. Unless I got hit by some type of scalar weapon or something, but I don't think that was happening. Yeah, so that was kind of awakened to that being. So then I can go back in that dream and meditate on it, because it's almost like something's like a recorded simulation. And so when you're within that dream, you can go back in it and look from different angles, analyse it. And it's the same with memories. When you get that technique, you just practice it. Go into your memory, look at it from different angles, figure out different bits of information. You might want to close down the memory and remove it, and things like that. You may want to think that you just live in the now, rather than your past is somehow coming with you. Because it's like some baggage, you can just leave that behind. You've done that trip, you've taken that journey. And so coming back to recent stuff, so I had some stuff where I put some spider DNA into the rifle machine, with crow as well. I had some crow and datura, and that was to stimulate them to grow and connect with the plants and stuff like that. And what I had was a kind of code that you would use a circular shape in lines, and each line would represent a letter connecting at which point. And so there's a whole alphabet, but there's possibly a lot more. You can put all the numbers in and everything. You can actually probably, with a circle and different lines, if lines could represent different letters, point to the letters, you can actually assemble a word. Now the word would be very difficult for someone who's dyslexic to pick up, but it might, or maybe it not, I don't know, because what you have is, if you know how it starts and you know how it ends, your mind will instantly descramble a word. I mean, you might get it slightly wrong, but most times you look at something and you already know what it means, even though it's actually representation is wrong. It's grammatically out. So, but if someone's dyslexic, they find this more difficult, this kind of way of inverting that and understand how it works. So this code was in my head, and I think these beings want me to get on and do it. And the idea is to create a code that links English to this other language, and that way I can communicate with them and they can communicate with us. So, I mean, I could always do the code and send it to somebody with the US military or something. I just say, look, you might not believe this, and then say blah blah blah. Just store this information in case these beings at some point make contact. I mean, there potentially are they potentially are war-minded. They do turn up, but they're not necessarily aggressive. Because they're very much like spiders in that they're foragers, and they do set traps for things, but they are capable of killing, so it's not impossible. So yeah, so I got to decode that, and then there was something else last night. Now the being was very strange. I got pushed into my bed, and I don't know if I sat up in my bed when I was asleep. Something pushed me back in a bed. It was some women actually. I thought it was 3 of them, but what didn't, not unless the thing had 3 heads, but what didn't make sense is the 2 women behind it didn't seem to interact, but there was one central consciousness, and she said, good, I'll give you a little surprise when I'm next around. And I thought, And when I woke up I thought, that's just strange. It's like I was going to have a wet dream or something bizarre, you know, like some female pushing me into bed for some reason. I don't know what was going on there. And well, I guess I enjoyed it. The interaction there. It wasn't a bad thing, and it wasn't a kind of negative experience. It's just very weird. However, I did feel the getting pushed into bed, and I'm wondering if I was possibly taken, or something happened there that basically they just fall in my brain as I become more conscious. It's like going there, it's all right. No, it's not a problem. I haven't really noticed anything else with myself. I feel okay. I was also using the rifle machine last night, and I've left it on for days, to be honest. Normally I use it for a little bit. And so what I'm doing is sending frequencies for DNA repair and stuff like that. Tendons, any sort of ailments I'm aware of I might have suffered. And it's working, yeah, I feel quite good today. I feel, because sometimes you get, if you do things day in and day out, I mean I work 7 days a week, so you can get repetitive strains in your tendons, so I don't feel any today at all. And my tummy sometimes plays up IBS, but there's also Crohn's disease in the family, so I've set that thing up, and it does a sweep on Crohn's disease, and so that works. But the other thing is it gives out a frequency range, so it's like a transmitter, and I'm like the receiver, so I'm picking up. I probably transmit as well information, and they say basically somebody's aura could be picked up outside of the planet's atmosphere. That's how powerful it is, because we're attuned to the same frequency as the planet. This is why possibly leaving the planet might not actually be possible outside a certain distance, or you'd need some way of maintaining yourself, because you might start developing problems, or it might be you can't do it at all. That's why there's the issue with these big on-about greys being sterile, because they travelled around, and if they're not attuned to any type of frequency, then they don't get sort of like a special code to reproduce or something. It's like you're not attached to the Wi-Fi, so your body's like, it's like we're not uploading this data from your consciousness, and other problems might be like space madness. Might be a condition whereby you find it hard, you dream about a lot of stuff, but you're not offloading it, and so you basically, hard drive starts becoming corrupted with all this information. You just loads of stuff going on in your head. So it's like a mania. So yeah, there could be certain space, interstellar mental health. So yeah, it's interesting how industries here will evolve into industries out there. I don't mind industries, but I don't want one that's like a parasite. Like let's make cancer a chronic illness, and that's keep asking for money for it, for research, and that's not what I want. I want someone to show me all your research. What have you found out? What do you know about it? And stop keeping people in the dark, because what they're doing is just making money out of people. You know, I might as well just set myself up as a charity, and possibly I'd set myself as a charity to support holistic healers working towards cancer and so on. And then what these guys would do is possibly put all their research into, put it into some magazine, so it's open source and for open-minded people. Everything just to be taken at face value what it is, and it's a document or a newsletter with research, because a lot of it, the corporate people jump out and say you can't do that. You know, why it can cure a certain amount of the problems, it also creates different problems, so therefore you're making people sick. But that's not true. It's just calibrating the right dosage and stuff like that. So it's research, and then so a medical professional could take that and say, okay, well, you've tried these methods. How about you know, taking coconut milk or something like that? Something just a bit come off the wall, and then you can say, well, based on the research from these holistic healers, they can use X, Y, and Z. And then that would be more positive. And then nobody cares about the industry. The industry is thriving anyway, the medical industry. I can't see why you need to get everyone on board with cancer. That's just sick in the head. And then it's a kind of monopolising life. You know, it's like education. You can only get educated in a school, and now it's more open source. You just go on the internet, open university, or research things. You know, there's all sorts of stuff out there. And I think that's important, because how can we develop as a species if we have to pay the bill all the time, you know? Or the idea that if you're some type of elite individual, you get a special kind of green card that allows you to access higher information. But not everyone's an intellectual, so there's no point. You know, people pay for their assignments to be done from online and stuff like that, which is a bit shitty. And so yeah, so it's definitely where we don't want to go, really. So there's a lot more resources out there, and I think that's really how a charity should probably function, just be open source to that. So try and think of anything alien I can think. Yeah, the other thing about the old the Rife machine is because it's transmitting this frequency, other beings in different frequencies will tune into that, and then it's like access. You know, it's a bit like they're a scanner, and they picked up the frequency of something of interest, so they're tuning into you. And then you might start having like dreams about particular things, or like pop into your head, and that's just like tuning in. I mean, nowadays I start seeing plants a lot more. It sounds a bit strange. I go to sleep and I start seeing plants. My mind starts travelling that way and looking at things that don't exist. So what else have I done recently? I've moved some cannabinoids. Let's put them that way. I've moved them from the bottles into the pots, and so my technique to getting them out of the bottles was holding the stem, they're strong enough, and then give it a light little shake, the bottle, so the earth loosens up. Pour the earth into the new container, and basically you need a root structure intact, so I need to get that across. So once enough earth had been removed so I could get it out of the bottle without injuring the plant, well, any more than it has to be, I then re-put it into a bigger pot which had drainage, and I used a water bottle, so a plastic water bottle. I drilled holes in the bottom of it, and then I put it into a glass vase, and I cut it to the height of the vase, so I can fill the bottle with water, and or I could just put water in it when the plant's in there, and it'd drain through at the bottom. Because the other issue I was worried about was getting it root bound, getting root rot, and all these sorts of things. Because the leaves of these cannabinoids had started turning yellow, so that was the issue, and it's partially to do with nutrients absorption for the plant. So they seem to be okay at the moment. They seem happy. I've given them water, but I don't think they really care about the water too much. I've also given them some ormus. I put some ormus at the top of it, and then I added the water, and that's gone into it. However, it might contain a slight amount of salt, so I see how they are. I don't want to overwater them. So that was the technique from getting them to one thing to the next. They might not have needed to come out of the pots really, the bottles, because the earth was as dry as powder, and I realised that if I put any water in it, it's just going to be absorbed into all the earth. So I think once the root structure is well displaced around the pot, any water goes in it, it's on it already. And I was giving it some mineral water, so because it had magnesium in it and stuff, so I thought, yeah, give it a little feed. So my experiment is I keep it in the pot, or the bottle I should say. I keep it in the bottle, one of them, and just water it in the bottle and see how that actually takes. Because the idea was to see if I could make something a bit self-sustaining. Because wide drainage is great. If you're just draining straight out the pot, it might be use more resources if it's got too many holes in it and stuff like that. And my datura is looking pretty, and she's about to flower at some point. She's just putting the flower out there. It's going to look quite big, I reckon. Big old trumpet. And I'm pleased because that's progress. I haven't had much luck with the other seeds yet, but I might just have to re-look at the way I'm doing them. I soaked them, and then I put them in the soil, and then I put a light layer of soil over them and left them. They can take 3 weeks to germinate though, that's true. I just don't want to keep soaking a pot. I don't want bloody mushrooms coming out everywhere in my flat. So yeah. Anyway, this is Pigsy having a great one, and you have a great one too. So speak to you soon. Bye.